Hi, welcome. It's story time. Today I'll explain a science fiction movie name, The Time Machine. So let's start. The foundation of the film is set in 1899. Alexander Hertogin is an associate professor of applied mechanics and engineering at Columbia University. The movie begins when we see him invest so much in a source that his friend and colleague David Philby has to remind him of his date with his girlfriend Emma when he was 5 years old. Upon hearing this, Alexander quickly picked up his note and returned to his home to get ready. On the way, he and David Alex talked about all the offers that the university had rejected. David suggests that he make his proposals less radical for people to make them useful. At Alex's house, his housekeeper, Mrs. Washer, greets him. They dress Alex in fancy new clothes and he goes to see Emma. He finally meets Emma. The two are talking in Central Park. Alex talks about his deteriorating health and claims that he will get better when he marries her. Emma, with tears in her eyes, accepted his offer. After a little fuss in her pocket, she gives him a ring in which her birthstone is embedded. Emma is on the moon. However, a man suddenly comes to them in a circle around. He wants their money. When Alex tries to avenge the kidnapper, his gun is aimed at him. Alex agrees and gives the snatcher his wallet and watch. But when he wants Emma's ring, they refuse. The man then tried to snatch it from her and shot her dead. While struggling, Alex holds her in his arms, calling her by name when he takes his last breath and dies. He hugged his lame corpse and cried in vain. The scene was cut 4 years later. Alex writes a formula on the ship, doing some research as he always does. He has not yet recovered from Emma's death and has been busy with his work ever since. David and Mrs. Watt were worried about him that day. When David arrives to meet her, she notices something on the other side of the screen and asks David to tell her what he is doing. David invites her over for dinner within a week and offers to show her his discovery. Then a week goes by and Alex finally recovers for the first time since Emma's death. He then opens the screen and we see a huge apparatus on the other side. It has many wheels and gears in the middle. A chair is embedded. Alex sits on it and looks at the picture of Emma on a locket. He slowly lowered a lever and made a spherical slope around it. The machine moves when Alex lowers a final lever. The camera zooms in on a pocket watch and we see its hand move counterclockwise as it shows Alex using it as a time machine. He put his blood and sweat on the machine to go back to the day Emma died 4 years ago and save her. In the following scene, we see the future Alex in Central Park on the day of Emma's death. She sees him and runs towards him. Alex is shocked to see his precious love return. He kisses her and is delighted and takes her to the nearest chariot to take her away from the park. They got off the chariot in the middle of the city. Alex tells her to go home and stay the night, assuming that Alex will come to Emma's house at night. She tells him not to get confused and just remember that he loves her. He leaves her on the side of the road to pick up her flowers as promised, but then a car pushes him, killing Emma again. Alex realizes he can't change Emma's fate, and no matter what he does, he'll die that night. But he won't give up. He believes that the people of the future must have found a way to change this factor, so he decides to go into the future and study the time machines of the future. He gets on the machine and pulls the lever down again, this time at 2030. As he travels through time, he sees the world around him changing. In 2030, he saw an advertisement for a settlement on the moon. He went to the New York Library hoping to find a book on a time trip, where he met a hologram from a librarian named Vox 114 and was shocked to see the technology. However, when he talks about time travel, Vox 114 reveals that no such discovery has been made, thinking that his luck will be good. A couple of years later, he got back into the machine and is now on his way to 2037. In 2037, the Earth was completely destroyed. The Lunar Habitation Program has made the Earth habitable because the Moon was brought closer to it. The body's gravitational force changes, causing frequent earthquakes and tsunamis on Earth. Due to the lunar habitat, huge cracks have appeared on the surface of the moon. Two police officers who are removing Earth arrest Alex for taking him to his eviction center. As soon as he resisted them, The ground began to shake and split in half, the hot lava spreading. Alex quickly gets into his machine and chases, but in the chaos hits his head on a piece of metal, knocking him unconscious. The time machine begins its journey, but an unconscious Alex is not there to stop it. When he finally opens his eyes, he sees that he has reached 802,701 years and quickly stops the machine before fainting again. He healed his wounds and woke up in bed. As she puts on her clothes, a little boy comes up to her and runs away. Alex follows the baby and sees that the future man has returned to a primitive way of life and is living on a hill. They all come to Alex and look at him in amazement, but he doesn't seem to understand English without a girl named Mara who can speak the language fluently. Alex tells her he's a time traveler, but Mara tells others he's just a wandering fool so they don't kill him. Those people are called Eloise. Loudly, the horn is heard and everyone goes to their respective shades. That night, he died and lived with his brother Callan. He sees the broken pieces of the moon in the sky. The next day, Mara takes Alex to her time machine. There was no loss of 2 seats. Forced to die, Alex takes Callan with him to the past. Before Alex could ask why, loud honking was heard in the background. Confused, Alex follows him. Mara goes mad and runs to save Callan. Everyone around them started running towards the hill again. Suddenly, Alex is confronted by a beast. They are called mortals. Some of them got up from the ground and started attacking everyone. They tied up those who could, grabbed their hands and carried them to the ground. Alex sees that one of them finds Marek and drowns with him. When they're all gone, Alex tries to ask the others where the monsters are taking them, but Kelly tells him that when Eloise is taken away, they aren't supposed to talk about it. Caitlin then takes Alex to the opening of the Morals world. They climb into a cave, and Alex realizes it's the New York Library. The hologram of Vox 144 speaks from behind them. Since the technology has worked in solar energy, he has lived so many years. Alex is surprised and asks her what is going on with the world now. Vox 114 answers that the human race evolved into 2 Eloise and Morlocks. This is the nature of the Earth now. The monsters come to the surface to hunt Eloise for survival. Vox then reveals that in order to reach the world of Morlock, they must follow their breathing, hear the voices of Callan and Alex, and follow it to reach the giant statue of a monster whose face is an opening to the world of Morlock. He leaves Callan outside and goes underground. Carefully, he finally arrives at the place and sees an entire civilization there. He then hid in a room and accidentally fell into a pond filled with human remains. Alex is then found by a Morlock and sent to their leader's chambers. The leader explained that when the moon parted, some people sank to the ground where there was no place to go. Over the years, they have evolved into meat by eating Morlocks. Others miraculously survived on the surface and recovered. Eloise Morals tried to return to the surface, but could not because of years of underground evolution. So they began to hunt humans off the surface for food and reproduction. The leader further reveals that he has the power to control the minds of both Eloise and Morlock and through them control the balance of the world. He also reads Alex's mind and knows that he is a time traveler and his desire is to bring Emma back. He hallucinates Alex about his life if Emma hadn't died. She is sad to see Emma and her baby play. The leader then concludes that people cannot change their destiny because they are the result of their own actions. He then shows Alex the time machine he had brought to the world of Morlock. The leader wants to go back to where he came from and not upset the balance of society. Now Alex is silently compelled, but as he turns on the machine he pulls the leader with him. The two quarreled for a while. Alex starts by holding him outside the sphere of the machine. The leader died quickly due to old age. He stops the machine again in the future and sees the place is filled in the Morlock cave, suggesting that the place is now ruled by the Morlock. Alex then returns to rescue Mara and brings her out of the cage. The monsters get angry and go off to attack them, but Alex jams a gear into the machine, creating massive distortions over time. The time machine explodes and takes away all of Morloc's world. but Mara Alex is able to get out of the cave just in time. With his time machine gone, Alex decides to stay with Eloise because he is satisfied here. In the future, we see Vox 144 teaching Eloise children about the human past. Alex dies and brings Callan back to where his lab was. When he talks to them somewhere else, David and Mrs. It enters Alex's lab and discusses his disappearance. David claims that Alex is happy wherever he is and offers Mrs. just to see him work as his housemaid. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe for more videos like this.